believe in the ripple effect.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo Brendes, also known as Ricky Brands, and a great episode for you today. Today we have a SWAPCAST with my dear friend, Ronny from the Enlighten with Ronny podcast. As many of you guys know, one of the many ways you can support the Ripple Effect Podcast and the work that I do is via Patreon. And Ronny was a Patreon supporter, and once a month I do a podcast with my Patreon supporters, and I release it as a episode. And Ronny was one of those people that would be on many episodes, and I would constantly encourage him to start his own show. He had a great personality, great sense of humor, and he was constantly doing research and listening to a lot of other great podcasts in the community. So to make a long story short, Ronny eventually starts his own podcast called the Enlighten Me with Ronny podcast, and you can find it on all the audio platforms and on a few of the video platforms, Odyssey being one of them. I'll put links to Ronny's show in the show description, and please check it out. And one reason to check it out is because I cut out some of our small talk in the beginning of the podcast. He left it in. So if you want to hear a little bit of our small talk about podcasting and the software we use and some of the techniques we use, check out Ronny's version of the SWAPCAST. And that's about it. Remember, this is a value for value show. If you get some value out of these conversations, consider giving some value back. If you can financially support the show, as I mentioned, Patreon is one way you can support the show. We also have many other ways. Check everything in the show description or go to my website, rippleeffectpodcast.com. If you can't support the show financially, please just rate, review, subscribe to the show on all the platforms I'm on. And that's it, guys. I'll keep this intro short. Support the show if you can. Enjoy the show, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.
By the way, I have a game here. I was thinking we should play, but then I realized we can't because when I put it up, no, it doesn't even work. It's you can't read that. So it's a game called Conspiracy Theory Trivia. So I was like, I'm going to try this out on you and read a few, like maybe 10. See if you can get 10 out of 10.
Probably not. There's so many rabbit holes. You know, the thing is, when you go, I'm sure you're probably the same way. Like when you first start going down rabbit holes, you get really obsessive about a topic. Like you'll be all about the Clintons, right? So it's like, why does everybody always talk about the Clintons? Let me look into this. And you watch Clinton Chronicles, you watch the Meta Connection, you watch all the documentaries, you read all the books, and then you're like, okay, I'm done with the Clintons. Let me move on to the next topic. And then you move on to the next topic. And so there's a lot of topics that I kind of, I shouldn't say I forgot a lot of the crucial information, but there's a lot of stuff that it would take me some time to really remember some of that information and some of that stuff. So to me, it's like, it's really important to remember, like, what did I learn from all that research? Okay, Clintons, bad. All the conspiracy theories about them, probably true. That's what I learned, and that's kind of what stays with me. All the other information, it's like, you know, the specifics, you know, like who was Vince Foster, who, like, when did he die, you know, who was he in relation to the Clintons, like, all, you know, some of that stuff can get fuzzy at times. But either way, do you have stuff like that? Like, what was the first couple of conspiracy theory?
It's 9/11 for me. I saw that 10 years ago maybe, and went into that rabbit hole for, I think I was on 9/11 for like 3-4 years and nothing else.
Are you
And
recording already, Ronnie?
yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to make sure you didn't forget, because I've done that where I'll start talking and then halfway through a podcast I'm like, fuck, I never hit record. Um, but yeah, that's so. Did you see that Richard Gage interview on um
Yeah, I did. I
Pat
did.
Pat David podcast?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was decent. I liked it when they had his feet to the fire at some point, but I don't know. I don't know why he was so political correct, or what you want to say, when they asked about the other conspiracies, what he believed in the beginning.
Well, I think he knows he's talking to a lot of normies, and he's talking to a lot of people who hasn't went down these rabbit holes. I mean, think about it. It was frustrating at times. And I like the Patrick David podcast. He seems like a decent guy. One time I actually had him, we're pretty close to having him on my show, and then it was like it got cold a little bit, and I was having a hard time getting a hold of him. Then he was releasing a new book, and whoever the hell my contact was with him said that he would come on if I bought like 100 of his books. And I'm like, you do realize like I don't make any money on my podcast. I make enough to like pay for everything and the storage and my website and all that stuff. I don't make a whole lot of money, and most the guests come on just to get exposure and to basically, I guess, be introduced to a new audience that maybe they might not know who they are. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because it was kind of one of those kind of like London Real type things where it's like, I like London Real, like they do some good work, but the host is too much of a businessman for me, where it's like they always tiptoe the line of like caring, seeming like I can't figure out if they care more about it being a business or they care more about the message. Is it a business or the message? Do you care about getting these conversations out there? Do you care about it helping people? Do you care about bringing people knowledge and information? Or do you care more about making money and the business part of it? I mean, I guess you can care about both, but when it leans more towards the business and you do kind of like, shady things. I mean, London Real's been, notorious for like taking people's email addresses and that type of stuff. And there's something too that happened with like Dorian Yates when he was on. Like there's a rocky relationship with Brian and Dorian Yates because of something that happened when he was on. And so it just, yeah, it makes me wonder. Like you look at Brian during the pandemic, like he had the doctors on, he had Judy Mikovits, he had David Icke on when he was being censored everywhere, and it's like, oh shit, Brian really cares. And then like every other hour you're getting an email from London Real, donate to this, donate to that, like it's like, dude, wait, like now you seem like a salesman, it's like you're
Yeah, he was running for mayor or something.
yeah, of London, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he took the playbook out of Trump. He saw that Trump went on Alex Jones and he was like, okay, I can take advantage of David Icke.
Well, I think that is a part of it too, because the thing is, he's had David Icke on a bunch, and he always says it's like one of the most watched interviews he does. So it's like it's one of your most watched interviews, and you have him on, and you keep having him on, and you keep making it like it's a huge thing. It's like David Icke, Brian Icke 3. It's like it's some type of trilogy MMA match, and yet I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but I'm like, David Icke does a lot of interviews and he's on a lot of shows, and his message is like not new. He's been saying this stuff for a long time, so it's like, I don't know, it just, people like that just rub me a little bit. I hate to say it too, because it's not that I dislike him, but Clay Clark kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit too. Like his interviews, I'm like, wait, how long have you been paying attention to this stuff? Since 2020? Like 2020 is when you had this awakening, and all of a sudden, like, you're doing every interview, and you're and it's like, I don't know, it just I don't know if they're opportunists, if they're people kind of taking advantage of the opportunity, or if they truly care about the message, or if they truly care about like, if there wasn't some fame or money or business motive in doing this, would you still do it? Like, we know what that answer is for you and for me. Like, yeah, like if we would still do this because obviously we're doing it and we're not making any money doing it. So it's like obviously we would still do this, but for them it's like, are they just taking advantage of a business opportunity? And if you look at their careers, like they're really good at making money and they're really good at taking advantage of business opportunities. So is this just another one of those things? But yeah, with Richard Gage, if people haven't seen it, it's not on the Valuetainment YouTube channel. It's on the Patrick Bet David YouTube channel, or the PB whatever.
PBD podcast, I think it's called.
Yeah, and I know somebody on Twitter. Well, I like your comment. You're like, I've never seen Richard Gage so nervous, because he did seem like super nervous in the beginning of the podcast. But I think he knows he was on a huge. It's different when he's on like your show or my show, and he's talking to people who get it and people who like, you know, he's talking about research that we've also seen and we've read and we've watched. And but when you go on there and you're out, you know, it's a little intimidating too, because you're outnumbered. You know, it's debating one person, because sometimes can be hard enough. Like to have multiple people push back, and if you're not a confrontational person, like you might just sound wrong, not because you're wrong, but because you're just having a hard time handling the pushback from so many people. And but he did a great, like once he settled in, he did a great job settling in, and he really went through the evidence, and he didn't. I think he didn't want to be like. First of all, I didn't. What was that? The thing about Patrick Bet David, some of the shit he does, I'm just like, you think it's this great move to make the podcast better, and it's just ridiculous. Like he opened up the podcast for people listening who didn't watch it. He opens up the podcast with like, oh, because you're like a conspiracy theorist, I'm gonna ask you your opinion on, you know, like 10 conspiracies. Oh, flat earth. It's like, are you trying to discredit him before he even gives you any evidence? Are you, because if you're a you know, an average person who doesn't go down these rabbit holes, maybe you're not as open-minded as you and I, and you hear this guy, and imagine if he says with like what he said with flat earth. He's like, I don't know, you know, I don't know, like the experts are lie to us all the time. They're like, the scientists lie to us all the time. So I'm not, you know, I'm gonna reserve judgment. Like you could get somebody who immediately says this guy's a lunatic, like I'm not going to listen to anything he says, turn off the podcast, he's just one of those typical conspiracy theorists, instead of saying like, hey, he's well spoken, he looks normal, you know, he's always well dressed in a suit and a tie and whatever, like he's a great spokesperson for the 9/11 movement. And he sticks to evidence, he sticks to things that are more or less undebatable, you know, and pretty much stuff that really you can connect the dots. And it's like, instead of just going down that path and saying like, okay, he's going to represent the 9/11 movement, let's give him a fair opportunity, you almost already started off at a disadvantage, because you're making him have to answer these ridiculous questions like, what do you think about this, what do you think of the moon landing, what do you, and there's going to be some people who dismiss him just based on his opinion on those other things that aren't related at all to 9/11. And it doesn't mean if he thinks or doesn't think a certain way about one of these other topics, it doesn't mean that his evidence on 9/11 is not good, or his research on 9/11 is not good. So it's like, it's kind of silly. It's like, when he started off like that, I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'm like, you finally get somebody on who's credible, who's for years now has been doing very little talking about any other subject besides 9/11. It's almost like a 9/11 black belt. He brings up great work, like he brought up James Corbett, he brought what's his name, the guy who did the movie or the book Another 19, Ryan something or something Ryan. But
names is not my strong suit.
but yeah, it was the book is called Another 19, and he brought him up, which is another great 9/11 researcher. He brought up tons of great people that would have never been brought up, and all the things he talked about, these guys did not have any rebuttal for. Like he talked about PNAC, he talked about Dick Cheney, he talked about all these things. He talked about the way the tower came down and how no other skyscraper has ever come down. And it's like he has all this evidence, and then they're so for them, I feel like it like shattered their worldview. Like the way they looked at that event just was, it was almost like so undeniable that there's more to this story that they almost didn't want to believe it. So their reaction was, I just have a hard time believing nobody spoke. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are like, there's been CIA operations all over the world. There's been political assassinations all over the world. I mean, JFK, there's still not anybody who spoke about that like openly, where there's an interview, and the people who did speak were silenced, murdered, assassinated, or nobody would talk to them. So this idea of like, oh, how can nobody say anything? How would nobody feel bad? Feel bad? Like how would when Pat I always mess up his fucking name, Patrick Bet David, when he was like, oh, how are these people who work in the elevators see the towers come down and not feel bad and not end up saying like, I have to say something? It's like, oh, well, the same way that a politician can send drones to a country, kill innocent people, and not give a fuck. The same way that Hillary Clinton can laugh about the murder of Gaddafi and the whole country going to hell and not give a shit. Like, what are you talking about? Like, these are business decisions. These are career politicians. Like, these are CIA operatives. These are spies. Like, these guys don't have a moral compass like you and I. Like, they don't care. It's just their job. The way they, and not just that. Another thing that Richard Gage said that was a very valid point, and I'm glad he said it, was he's like, we're not even sure these are Americans. So the way that, you're saying this is like, this is somebody who's going to sympathize with Americans. You might have somebody who thinks of the greater good. I mean, look at the kamikaze, air pilots, right? Like, they were killing themselves for what they thought was the greater good. Like, people, when they're convinced that they're doing something for the greater good, whatever that greater good is, if it's religious, if it's nationalism, whatever it may be, like, there's lengths you'll go to. So if they're Saudi, Mossad, if they were, Middle Eastern terrorists, whatever it may be, like, they might have an ideology that justifies these actions, just like the murder of Alexander Dugin's daughter, right? You think the assassin's going to come out and say, now that I think about it, I feel really bad about killing her? Like, no, she's not going to say that. Why? Because these people were picked and chose for these jobs because they're not going to do that. This idea that, like, because I would feel bad, I must assume everybody in my position would also feel bad. I think that's why people struggled to deal with the COVID lock or the forced vaccines and stuff. When you tell somebody that, like, hey, they know that the vaccine studies are bullshit and the research is fuzzy and bullshit and they're probably going to harm some people, people look at you like, but how? Why would somebody do that? Like, they had a hard time believing that somebody could intentionally harm somebody. But guess what? Throughout history, there's examples and examples and examples of doing that, either in regards to foreign policy, going into wars that we shouldn't get involved in, which are going to lead to tons of casualties on our side and on their side, and we don't care. We just go, oops, maybe we shouldn't have went to Vietnam. It's my bad. It's like, well, you say oops, but there's people with PTSD. There's people who lost loved ones. There's people on both sides who lost loved ones. Little kids, little girls, little everybody who died, who were just innocent bystanders. So this idea that, like, anybody gives a shit, when DuPont was putting C4 in many of their products that was killing people and leading to cancer, and they hid that research. And I had the attorney who was a part of that on the podcast. The movie is called Dark Water. It's about his story and how the attorney uncovered this suppressed research. You think DuPont is like, hey, we know this chemical is hurting people, but it's making us a lot of money. I kind of feel bad. Fuck the money. Let's do what's right. No, they're like, I don't care. Like, we're making money. Let's just wait it out and see if we get sued or somebody, uncovers it. Like, so it was, to me, from especially a businessman like Pat Bet David, like, he's probably constantly surrounded by cutthroat businessmen who don't give a shit about their moral compass. So for him to believe that, like, those type of people don't exist was just surreal to me. I was like, how? What? You have that's the part you have a hard time believing? Like, to me, I would have a much harder time believing when and it's funny because they just kind of went through it pretty quickly when he's like, hey, Richard Gage is like, hey, the BBC announced that the tower is coming down before the tower came down. And it's like nobody stopped and said, wait, what? Wait, there's a video of a news anchor, a journalist on the BBC saying that Tower 7 came down, and yet it was still up behind her. Like, how is that? Like, that's the part that would be hard to believe. Like, okay, let's see if the video is fabricated. But the idea of like, oh, how do people do it without feeling bad? It's like that's the part that you were skeptical about. It was ridiculous. Did you have similar feelings, or what was your thoughts?
For sure, and I feel like this about Patrick Bet David also because he's he's in insurance. I mean, that's a ruthless business, and he's a ruthless capitalist, and he talks about it all the time. So yeah, I don't see why he has an issue, and he also interviews like mob bosses all the time. I mean, he knows, and he also have had, I think, 5 or 6 people on about the JFK assassination. He had the corner that had the brain in his hand that said this is not JFK's brain. I mean, he knows shit goes on, so I don't know. It might be because he went into the military and feel like he might have done something that is not justified, and he's trying to justify it why he went into the military and went to the Middle East and killed some people. That might be one angle. I don't really know why he would push back so hard when he talks to mob bosses and the JFK assassination, and so I don't really know. I think it might be something he feels bad about. Maybe he did something in the Middle East that he needs to justify for himself or something.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. His military background affecting his perspective on 9/11, because obviously a lot of people were motivated to join the military after 9/11. They felt like they were fighting for freedoms and for a just cause, and we needed to get to or get some justice for what happened. And so a lot of those people were emotionally kind of taken advantage of to join the military. So, like you said, maybe it was a way of justifying. And I don't. Do you know if he was overseas after 9/11? Was he in Afghanistan or Iraq or any of the many countries we got involved in?
I actually don't know. That's why I'm not sure if that's even an accurate point to take up. So I should look into that.
Yeah, but you know
But
what?
it would make sense if he went there and shot some old lady and was like, "Oh shit," and he came home and he was like, "Yeah, well, I did it because 9/11, so it's not that big of a deal," or something like that. Could that have happened?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's almost like when he was talking about they would feel bad, maybe he was talking about himself. Maybe he was referring to himself, like because he was feeling bad about the fact that, like you said, that maybe the pulling the trigger overseas he thought was for a just cause, and then Richard Gage unravels all that and says, no, you were lied to by everybody, and everybody was involved. Mossad, the Bin Ladens, everybody had a hand, and in this, the ISI in Pakistan, like there's so many different parts of this story, and so it's like, yeah, I mean, that could be a reason why he was saying that, because maybe he had a hard time believing that other people wouldn't feel bad, because he felt bad because he was doing something that maybe was not right, like killing people, but he felt like it was for the right reasons. It was for a greater reason. And then after Richard Gage comes on your show, you start rethinking all of that. It's like, okay, what was I lied to? Was this whole reason we were even here pulling the trigger based on lies? And yeah, that's a really good point. We're both gonna have to kind of look into that and see. But even if he didn't go overseas after 9/11, he was still in the military, and the military obviously did some very unjust things, not their fault, but we were lied to in Afghanistan. We were lied to Iraq. A lot of innocent people that had nothing to do with September 11th. Were, because obviously the hijackers were Saudis, and we didn't invade Saudi Arabia. So a lot of people in the military went overseas based on lies. So you kind of feel like, okay, if you're in the military and you're pro-military, then maybe you're more hesitant to kind of look at 9/11 and all the wars that came afterwards from the perspective of like it was all based on a lie and it was all pointless and it didn't make us any safer. If anything, it made the world much more dangerous because you just created more enemies, which really was the case. I mean, obviously bin Laden was already not a fan of the US, going back to, Afghanistan and the Soviet Union and that whole proxy war. But now you created more enemies in Iraq, more enemies in Afghanistan from getting involved in there. And then obviously Yemen and all the other countries you got involved in, Libya, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's interesting. But I think overall, Richard Gage did pretty well. Like if people listen to the whole episode, I have a hard time believing people wouldn't be convinced that there's at least more than meets the eye.
Yeah, at least have a question or two. But yeah, on the things that political people do, they tell you something that they've done themselves. You can see that nowadays, pretty much in America. Every week, they're like, Trump was colluding with Ukraine, and no, you did that, Biden. You did that. And they're like, the border crisis is no problem. And then they see 50 immigrants and they're like, fuck these people, and shuffle them away. So it's always they're pretty much telling you what they're doing, but they're telling you that someone else is doing it. At least what I see now, when they're trying to blame Trump for something, I pretty much, if I hear someone say Trump did that, I'm like, okay, you did that, basically. Even though he's a shithead, but they're most like I think it's safe to say they did it if they call him out on it, because they could call him out on his doing deals with Saudi and Kushner. I think he got 2 billion or something in a foundation in Saudi money, and now he have the live tournament, and of course that's corruption. Everybody knows it, but they do the same, so they can't really say anything. So they try to find some straw man shit, and they're like, okay, what did I do that I can blame him for? And they're like, he did that, and then it turns out they did it themselves. Like the Russiagate shit, it turns out it was Clinton was working with the Russians. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I feel like once you get to the highest levels of politics, so I look at politics like, you're a white belt when you're starting off, and then you get your next belt when you get your yellow belt when you become a little better liar and a little better deceiver, and then you get your next belt. Then you get your next belt. Like as you become a better liar and deceiver, you keep getting a next belt. And by the time you're president, you're a black belt in lying and deceiving. So you see these guys, they are such good liars. Like they can blatantly lie to your face, like say something that's like how many times have you seen fact checkers? Remember when they used to do the debates and they used to have fact checkers like, oh, what he said factual? Some of these guys get caught saying things that are 100% undeniably a lie, and yet you watch them say it and you're like, he had no problem saying it whatsoever. Like he didn't struggle at all. He didn't flinch. He didn't get red. He didn't, like, these guys would all pass lie detector tests because they're so good at lying that literally their bodies have zero reaction to it. Like most of us, when we're lying or we have to be deceiving a little bit, or we're fibbing or whatever, like, you don't feel good. You're like, oh, I don't like doing this, or I gotta get, that's usually what the lie detector test picks up on. Your heart rate goes up, you get sweaty, whatever. These guys would just kill the lie detector test because these guys, like, lying to them is like breathing. It's like, it's not hard to do at all. And
yeah, the last with Bush, I have it in my intro when he's like, he's supposed to say that Putin invaded and started an unjust war. So he was like, he invaded Iraq with no reason. And then he says after that, he laughs and, yeah, I'm old, but yeah, we didn't have a reason. He admitted it and just continue like nothing happened. Motherfucker, you started a 20-year-old war and you just said I did it for no reason, and just laughs it off and continues. How the fuck is that even possible? I
The
don't get it.
the only thing I will say about Bush and Clinton is that I feel like if I had a drink with those guys and Trump, actually, I feel like all our presidents, like we haven't had like really boring presidents that don't seem fun. Like I feel like I could have a drink and have a good time. I feel like me and Obama could play some one-on-one basketball. He's a big basketball guy. We'd have fun playing some pickup ball. I feel like Trump and I, well, he doesn't drink, so that's no fun. But I feel like he has a really good sense of humor. He'd be very sarcastic, and he'd be a good like ball buster. Like he. So I feel like he would be fun. Clinton and Bush, those are guys that you go out getting hammered with. Like those are the guys that you get drunk with and just have a crazy night where you wake up and there's a tiger in the bathroom, like hangover, right? You like those are the type of guys you just have a good time with. They were likable. I mean, Rogan says it, and it's true. Like Obama, obviously, you and I have both talked about it on our own shows multiple times, even when he was president, like all the horrible things he did. But just likability or uh, the way he presented himself, he was probably one of the best of all time. When you look at like he just always had that smile. He always looked likable. He always seemed like he was the guy who everybody wanted to talk to and hang out with, and just had like this cool element to him. And Clinton was kind of like that too, where he always had like this like cool element. I remember Paul Pierce, who plays for the Celtics, when he was playing for the Celtics. I think it was right after he retired. He was at like a golf tournament, and Bill Clinton was there. And I remember hearing this interview with Paul Pierce, and he was talking about how he's like, dude, this dude's so charming. He has everybody going. He's like, we're laughing, this and that. And then he puts his arm around my wife, and he's kidding, and he's like, I'm laughing, and then I hesitated. And I'm like, oh shit. He's like, he's like, how about you get that arm off my wife? Like and it's like he has that charming personality that is contagious, which you kind of need to be a politician. And that's Trump has this weird charm too, also, because he says things off the cuff, but he's also like legitimately funny. Like
He's a comedian. He would be super great if he did like a 1 hour stand-up. I would watch the shit out of that.
I would imagine. Well, I mean, about all his the times he talks is like a stand-up session. It's like some type of like amateur hour somewhere, because he just goes up and he riffs. He just goes up and he starts talking, and then you always know when he's in the mode because he's in the zone, because he starts like making jokes, and he's like moving and he's laughing, and then especially when the way he works the crowd, it's very much like a stand-up comedian, because he'll be like, oh, they're laughing at this, so he'll just keep hammering that one thing because they're laughing at it. And yeah, it's funny. He has a weird charm too, which that's the thing. Like it's almost like and I've been saying this a lot on the show recently, like somebody can have a charm and they can be likable, but we have to constantly keep reminding ourselves, like, that doesn't mean they're not evil a-holes. Like it because I can watch a character on TV, I can fall in love with a character in a movie, right? Like, oh my God, like this person, I love this character in this movie, and then you find out the actor or actress who played them is a complete douchebag. But it's like, okay, but they can be very likable and still be a complete douchebag. Well, that's how politicians are on TV, on the screen. They're playing a character, and they can be very likable, and they can have some likable aspects to them. But when it comes down to like decision making or willing to lie and cheat and steal to get more power and get more resources, they will, and they have, because that's how they got there in the first place.
Yeah, it's like Obama said, turns out I'm good at killing, or something like that, when he was talking about the drone strikes, the kill list he had or something. So yeah, he was a likable dude, and they are well, Biden is not so much because he can't speak, but he's funny too in his own way.
It's kind of funny in his own way.
Yeah.
Oh my, he's funny because like there's like seriously something wrong with him. Like he tries to come off as this cool and like collective and all, but like put together person, and then he just messes up with what he's saying. Now it's like he's funny like unintentionally, because it's funny to watch him mess up, and then like he digs himself a hole and then he tries to dig his way out of it, and he just continues to make very little sense. Like if I was a leader of another country, I'd be like, now's the time to attack. Because if this idiot's running the country, now's the time to attack. Like I feel like, with Obama or Trump, like you'd be a little bit more afraid of like, the two having leaders come together and have a discussion about something. But with Biden, you're like, yeah, I'll have a meeting with Biden and I'll just make no sense and I'll confuse him. And then next thing you know, I'll get what I want, and I'll convince him that it's a good deal for his country. But again, really, Biden's a perfect example for all those people who didn't believe us when we told them like the president doesn't really run the country. Is it ever more obvious that the president doesn't run the country? Because if you think the country's bad now, imagine if Biden was actually running it. Like it'd be way worse. If he was actually running it, if like he was the final decision maker on every issue, like it would be just amazingly awful, but
it might be good too, because he might make one decision per day, so nothing happens.
that's
So everything stay the same.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I need to sleep on that. I can't.
Yeah, and then he comes back the day after and he doesn't remember even they asked him. So he's like,
Ask me.
what was the question again?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that, President. That's what you said yesterday. Yeah, I need more time. Yeah,
Yeah, I find it funny when when on this last interview on the 60 Minutes, when they asked if they're going to put American troops if China invades Taiwan, and he's like, yes. And the White House comes out the day after, and no, 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 no. I'm like, well, he's the chief. If he says yes, you're going to war, I guess. And he probably will say yes. He has said it 4 or 5 times now, so I'm guessing he will send troops. I don't know. Do you have someone that can say no if you say yes? I don't know. How does it work?
I don't know. I mean, I remember when Trump was in office and he said something about nuclear strike on North Korea. He's like, "Oh, my bombs are bigger than yours." I'm like, that's really dumb. I'm like, you were literally playing chicken. You're playing Russian roulette with somebody else who has nuclear weapons, and you're like instigating them. And I'm like, that doesn't seem very smart. But then it hit me. I'm like, all these politicians know that the political game, they're in power. They know it's all about public perception. And then what really happens is all decided behind closed doors, not on Twitter. So it's like, if regardless what he says on Twitter, at the end of the day, like any serious decision is going to be made behind closed doors with advisors and people who are, representative of both countries and whatnot. So it's like, I'm like, North Korea knows that. I mean, that's the reason why they have these gigantic parades to kind of make it look like their country is, powerful and great and whatnot. So, he knows the PR spin of it, and I don't think even North Korea would look at what Trump tweets as like a justification for war, because they know what the implements of that would be. The start a war over a Twitter, a tweet, a Twitter a debate or message. So it's yeah, I mean it's we live in some crazy times, man. I mean, but the length that they're going to, like, that's the other thing too. It's like, if you like Trump or don't like Trump, think about the harassment that he's going through. Like, you're being spied on, you're being, every little thing, every skeleton in your closet is being ripped out of the closet to try to get you in trouble. They're going at you for January 6th. They're going at you for this. They're going at you for that. Every person who's close to you, the My Pillow guy or whatever it's called, the Papa John's guy, like everybody's being like investigated and spied on. Bannon, FBI raiding his house. Like, if you're close to Trump, you're being harassed. And why, like, people aren't concerned about that? Like, you're not concerned about the fact that, like, who did he piss off? Like, and who has the authority to harass somebody who was president of the United States of America and elected? If you guys are so afraid about him running, like, it should, like, why? Is it because he's so anti-establishment, or he's anti-shadow government, or whatever term you want to use? Or really, like, shouldn't we be pissed off because the people should decide who's president and not you guys? And you guys, whoever you guys are, you shouldn't restrict his ability to run for president. And if the majority of the people vote for him, he should become president, even if you don't like it, right? But that's people who look at things from a surface level. The truth is that he is a threat to, the FBI and CIA and some of the shadow government and some of the people that have been there who, have basically been in power for a long time, and look at Trump as like, this guy's going to come in and fuck things up. And the truth is, like, not even the Republican Party wanted him to run. Like, people keep forgetting that. They're like, oh, he's a politician. Yeah, I'm like, not real. Like, he is, because obviously he was the president and he ran as a Republican. But people have to remember that, like, not even the Republicans wanted him. Like, they basically pushed back against him until it was just obvious that, anybody who didn't jump on the train was gonna be left behind. So, and then everybody started talking highly of him because they could see the finish line was him winning. And if you wanted a job in government, if you wanted his support, the smart career move was to back him up. So, but they didn't want, like, it wasn't because they initially wanted him. They wanted Jeb Bush or Romney or one of these other schmucks who are just cookie cutter politicians who will play the game and do whatever they're told and not push back and ruin their plans, whatever those plans may be. So it's even big pharma, like the things that he said to big pharma, and I mean, obviously he pushed the vaccine, but again, that's a perfect example of how Trump can do good things and bad things all at the same time. Like, and it's all for the same reason. It's because he cares about himself. Like, he pushed the vaccine because it would have made him look good if he was the guy who saved, the world by, getting this vaccine to all these people where we could open up the country. So it looks good on his resume, but he's also the guy who came out and said, hey, yeah, I took hydroxychloroquine, and publicly said it, even though he knew it was being demonized and big pharma would hate that. And he also pushed back on Fauci many times. So it's like, he does good things and he does other bad things. I think he's probably even though they're all bad, he's the least worse than all the other ones, in regards to that stuff. I mean, he is the only president that hasn't started a new war, up to him in past history. And people will say, oh, we didn't end any wars either. Well, it's not that fucking easy either. You have military bases, you have tons of other reasons why you're in countries. You can't just pull out of a country. Well, even though they did in Afghanistan, look at what happened, right? Everybody got pissed off, which I was a little confused. I was like torn with that topic, because I'm like, in a way, I get the idea of, like, you can't just pull out and leave everything. But in another way, it's like, we couldn't get out soon enough. Like, what the fuck are we doing there? Absolutely, let's stop spending money and resources in Afghanistan. We should have never been there in the first place. So I was like, I kind of see both perspectives. A lot of these issues aren't that cut and dry, because it's like, a lot of times I find myself agreeing with Republicans, but other times I'm like, no, you're kind of wrong about that, and I mean, a lot of my Republican friends, they're losing their mind about immigration, right? They're just like, it's ruining the country. It's going to ruin the country. I just heard, I think Sunday's No Agenda show, they talked about Abbott from Texas. Did you hear about this? How he sent immigrants?
Yeah, he sent immigrants he sent to Kamala, and the Florida guys sent them to the Obama's house, whatever the place is.
Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
How hilarious is that? Like, oh, you're pro-immigrant? Here's some immigrants. He's like,
yeah, I loved it.
I'm like, that is hilarious. But the thing is, like, everybody in the U.S. is like, all the Republicans are like, oh my God, immigrant. I'm like, and you know what's crazy to me is most of the people who are saying this are immigrants. I'm like, but you're like, oh, but they're coming here illegally. I'm like, I get it, but I'm like, that's not like the biggest issue ever. I'm like, it's not. I mean, there's plenty of other issues, like the reason why our gas prices are high, the reason why our food's high. Like, let's resolve those issues. Like, and there's a lot of immigrants who do jobs that Americans don't want to do. I mean, you see it all the time. You go hotels. My parents worked in a hotel in Switzerland when I was so my parents were left Portugal and looked for work in or went to work in Switzerland at some like 5-star hotel. And just like immigrants in many countries, or in many countries, immigrants are working the hotels. They were the immigrants working the hotels in Switzerland. And then my mother got pregnant, and she was, I don't know, like 7 or 8 months pregnant, and then she was hiding it, but then they're like, oh, we don't want you to have an anchor baby and have a Swiss baby, so we're sending you back to Portugal because they found out she was pregnant. So she ended up, I was like a month away from being born in Switzerland instead of Portugal. But yeah, I mean, what the hell were we just talking about before that? I lost my train of thought. We were talking about
The immigrant issue.
oh yeah, immigrants. So like yeah, in Switzerland, a lot of the people work in hotel rooms, chefs, cooks, cleaners, immigrants. In America, hotels, what do you see? A lot of immigrants. You go to California, you go to Texas. There's a lot of Hispanic and Latin American influence in those states. I mean, San Diego. Does that sound like a English American country boy type of name for a town? Like San Diego sounds pretty Spanish to me. You look at I mean, they have the baseball teams, the San Diego Padres. I mean, does that sound? Look, baseball, the most American sport ever. By the way, we have a team called the San Diego Padres. So it's like Spanish. A lot of the Latin Americans, the Latinos, and Hispanics from Central and South America, like their culture is just a part of it's as much about and deep rooted in American history and American culture as any other immigrants' culture. So to me, it's like it's funny how we look at Latin American people still differently than we look at Italians or Irish or Portuguese or Polish and people who came here earlier. I always say like immigrants want to close the door behind them. It's like once I'm in, it's like, okay, hey, accept us Portuguese people. Please be accepting to us. Now we're in and we're accepted. Now let's close the door behind us and make sure the next group of immigrants don't come in, And it's like, there's always been this thing with like the Spanish speaking people that, there's people act like it's not a part of American culture. Like there's outsiders. And I get the idea, like you can't let everybody in illegally, right? You can't, just basically open the borders, or because then you end up having no country. But I also don't think it's like the number one issue either, where like when you look at California, if you deported all the Mexicans, the legal immigrants, like most of California was shut down because they're working everywhere, so
Yeah, wasn't that some rich white lady Democrat that said that if Trump deports these people, who is gonna clean my toilet or something like that? I'm like,
I did say that. Somebody did say that. I forgot. You're right. Somebody did say, and then I remember she got a lot of backlash for that, right? She got some shit for saying that.
yeah, that was like, you racist motherfucker. But I guess she has some Mexican woman cleaning her bathroom, so.
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, remember we had the affair with his nanny, his kid's nanny. She was Spanish, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, that's that, and it's not, again, it's not exclusive to America. In many countries, immigrants are doing those type of jobs, and it's it's just the way the world works because they're low paying. Typically, you don't need to know how to read or write the language of that country to do those jobs. As long as you can kind of get enough to communicate, you can do those jobs. So they're attracted to those jobs. When I came to America, or when my parents brought me to America, those are the type of jobs they did too. I mean, they did hotel cleaning, and I believe my dad worked in the kitchen in Switzerland. My mom was a cleaner in Switzerland. And then when they came to America, my mother went to go work at a factory, and my dad went to go work construction, because those were the type of jobs that didn't require a whole lot of education, traditional education, and didn't require any reading or writing to do them. So that's just the way the world works. And it is surprising how many foreigners think that immigrants are the problem, and I'm sure, you know, I'm kind of uneducated on this topic because I've never seen it as a issue that is important enough for me to really do a deep dive into, and like, okay, who's right on this? Is immigration really like as big of an issue as the right says, or is it as little of an issue as the left says, or is it somewhere in the middle? And it's probably somewhere in the middle. I'm sure there's some downfalls to it, and I'm sure there's, you know, there's some things that aren't that big of a deal. You know, but I mean, from the COVID perspective, I was pissed when I was finding out that like all these people were just coming into the country, you know, without vaccines, or and you know, the rest of us had to get, well, I didn't, but I know people who had to get vaccinated just to go to work.
Yeah, I think it's the immigration issue is it's fine if you have kind of the same culture. The South American people, but they believe in Jesus, right? Most of them are Christian.
Actually, which is, it's funny because I said this to, I don't know if I said this to Mel K or somebody. It boggles my mind that the Republicans, so we have a little family construction company. Two of my employees, really nice guys. They're Christian, family oriented, don't drink, don't smoke. The you know, maybe a little homophobic, but they're Christian from Guatemala, and a lot of Guatemalans are very Christian. A lot of Mexicans are very Catholic, and I mean, and when I say very, I mean like they're actually practicing the religion. They're not just like, oh, I'm a Catholic, but I don't go to church, and I don't know anything about the Bible, but I'm Catholic. No, it's like they're actually practicing, and they try to live their lives you know, in that way. But so the thing is, like, what, and my point of bringing this up is that I've thought about this before, like, you know, years ago, like a lot of the Republican who are demonizing the Latin Americans that are coming to this country, they would help themselves a lot, because a lot of the Republicans think that like a lot of this immigration is because you'll get them to vote, you know, vote Democrat, and then they'll help the other side. But I'm like, you can get them on your side, because in regards to values, they're much more Republican and conservative than they are Democrat. Like, I know Mexicans that are very Catholic, very family oriented, other Guatemalans, other people from El Salvador. They're all very religious. They're very traditional in their values and beliefs. So they're, you know, they're not really open to gay marriage. They're not really open to transgender stuff. They're very traditional in regards to that stuff. They believe in the family. They believe, you know, that you know, the family is important. Like, what does that sound like? Does that sound like values of the left or values of the right? That sounds like values of the right. And you know, they go to church. You know, they're religious. It's like, why don't you utilize these people and get them on your side instead of demonizing them? Because you probably have more in common with them than you do other Americans that that live in this country, and yet you're demonizing people that actually have more in common with you than many Americans. So to me, it's like, it's kind of a portion of the population that isn't really been utilized, because I think that if a lot of those Latin Americans, like you look at Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, you know, they're, look at their music, look at their culture. Women dress like women, guys dress like guys. They're it's very their music, their culture, it's very sexual, and you know, women dancing all you know, all sexy, and they're you know, the salsa, all these dances are very erotic and stuff. And you know, these are people who believe in the traditional man woman type of marriage and culture. It's like, so they're kind of fighting, they kind of believe in fighting for the same things you're fighting for, but you turn them into enemies immediately, because what you do is you complain about them, and then you complain about them, and now they're like, well, screw that side, because they're not open arms, they're not inviting us in here with open arms. They're saying that we're the problem. It's always the Latin Americans that are the problem. They're the reasons this, or they're all, either they're all criminals, or they all mooch off the system, or whatever, you know. So it's like, well, why are you demonizing them? They probably have more in common than many others, and really would probably hurt the Democrats, you know, and the liberal progressive movement a lot if you could convince them to kind of vote in your direction, which I think statistically you've seen more and more of that a little bit. You've seen,
Yeah, they say that now that the people of different shades of colors are starting to vote Republican. But yeah, Bernie Sanders came out and he said it's a Koch brothers proposal to open the border. Because yeah, they said we want cheap labor. So I don't see how it is like this, but I mean, divide and conquer. I think they don't give a shit about anything. They just I think it's almost that easy. They're like, this is what we like, this is what you like, and it doesn't really matter the reality of things. You just battle for no reason at all. And now they came out with the abortion ban. I think that's why the two Republicans and the immigrants, because they got bad press, the party, when the party leader came out and we want to ban abortion outright. So then the Democrats was like, yeah, fuck you. And they was like, well, send some immigrants around to distract them and stuff like. But we are on an hour here, so I think my family is coming home soon. So I want to ask you some questions from this card now before we leave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Put your feet to the fire. Let's start with the easy one. It's a schemes, you know. I think you know every answer to the schemes card, so I should put on some lights. Let's see. What retail chain did conspiracists accuse of being a front for money laundering? A. Walmart, B. Mattress Firm, C. Victoria's Secret, D. Bed Bath and Beyond. Do you remember this one? It's pretty new.
I don't know this one. So Walmart, Bed Bath and Beyond,
And a Mattress Firm and Victoria's Secret.
well,
I think it's Q that found this. They had the same name on something, and then you find a child with the same name and a price.
real.
Okay, so yeah, so it's a mattress company. So they sold like a mattress named Lauren, and Lauren, maybe the mattress was Lauren 17, and then you look for Lauren 17, she is missing, and then you buy her for. The price was ridiculous. It was stupid high.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think that was in one of Memory Hold's documentaries about Pizzagate.
Yeah. So, well, we talked about QAnon, so this is the answer for that. Let's not do that one. JFK question. Who recorded the famous film of JFK's assassination that gave rise to the multiple shooter conspiracy? A. Oliver Stone, B. Roger Patterson, C. Billy Grasnell Johnson, D. Abraham Zapruder.
That's Zapruder.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Zapruder film.
Yeah. I learned that when I saw this card the first time. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's the name of the guy.
Yeah.
Performing a terrible act that is publicly blamed on another organization or country is called what? A. Black Operation, B. False Flag, C. Delta Mission, D. Flip Position.
Flip position. That sounds like a answer to a porn question. A false flag.
Yes. So yeah, the schemes are so easy. Let's go with some. I have a sport question here. They have random and tech schemes meets aliens. So this is from the random. In 2001 Spygate scandal, which NFL team allegedly violated league rules by secretly with? Did you get it? What did you say?
Patriots, but it was
Yeah.
It was well, that one was easy because I live in Massachusetts, so I that was our home.
Okay.
New England Patriots, they play in Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts. So that was a big scandal. Yeah. Spygate, and then there was Deflategate. when supposedly Tom Brady, switched footballs in the playoffs to one where they had less air because it was easier for him to hold it, but which was ridiculous because it was like a blowout anyways, and I don't think it would affect the outcome of the game. But it's funny how those little scandals are the ones that come out, but there's not you don't see a lot of like betting or gambling scandals come out, even though we know it happens all over the world.
Yeah, I have another sport question here. I see now. This is an older one. What did conspiracists call the group of White Sox players that were accused of rigging the 1919 World Series? A. The Black Sox. B. The Bad Sox. C. The Dirty Sox. And yeah, the last. It's it's sock to be them. so it's not the last one.
I honestly don't know, but I'm going to take a guess. Maybe the Dirty Sox,
It's the Black Sox.
the Black Sox. Okay.
So
Yeah, I know of that. I know of that game, and I know I've heard people talk about it, but I don't watch a whole lot of baseball. So, because I like to not fall asleep while I'm watching my sports.
okay. This is a fun one. This is from the Mythos cards. Santa Antonio, a small town in southern Brazil, experienced a storm in 2013 that rained what type of creatures? A. Frogs. B. Spiders. C. Worms. D. Elephants.
Well, I think elephants would be the incorrect one. Spiders?
Yes. So you are like, I haven't counted. Maybe are you at four out of six or something?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, I think I got two wrong.
Okay.
This is, like I said, like this goes, you have to go deep in your memory bank for these things.
Yeah. This is a weird conspiracy. Let's see. Which of these historical figures does not have a conspiracy theory stating that they never actually existed? Okay. So there are three guys that has a conspiracy about them not existing and one does not. So A. Buddha. B. Muhammad. C. The Dalai Lama. D. Jesus.
The Dalai Lama.
Yes. Well, he's the only one alive, so you
Yeah.
can't really say he's not here. Okay, some flat Earth question. According to flat earthers, what natural phenomenon creates the illusion of the sun setting? A. The horizon triangulation. It's hard to read in English. What the fuck? B. Angular warping. C. The law of perception. D. The solar spotlight.
I don't know, to be completely honest with you.
You're not a flat earther?
No,
Shame.
they are very tribalistic with their.
Yeah, they are. I follow one on Instagram and he's constantly telling people they are shills and they don't know shit. I'm like, dude, you're a little bit angry, my friend.
I know that they seem a little extreme. It's almost like that becomes your identity. You know what I mean? Like that's what you are. It's not just something. It's not like one of many things you believe. It's like your most important belief. And
Yeah, and I have also noticed that podcasters now are afraid of them. So if they casually talk about something and they mention Earth, they usually also add, and if you believe it's flat or whatever, I don't care. Like, it's okay if you believe the Earth is round.
That's a very good observation because I've noticed that too. I've noticed that like it almost seems like they don't want to piss them off. Like it almost like they've become like the alternative media cancer culture. where they, you're worried you're going to get canceled by the, flat earthers, or they're all going to attack you, if you say something and you piss them off, or they'll call you like, you just want to stay off the radar. Like, let me just like let them know, like, I'm not an enemy. I come in peace. It's like, it is weird, man. It's not good though. It doesn't help the flat earth movement, because it's like, you just seem, anytime you're that extreme in your views, it looks bad.
Yeah, indeed. I don't I don't even think I would have David Weiss on if he asked. Maybe it's fun to I know his arguments, so but I saw him lose a debate pretty hard, so it's like
With who?
it's another dude called Dave or two Daves. I don't know the podcast. It was randomly on my feed, a flat earth debate. So I was like, okay, let's watch this. And they had some fun. And he was trying to stay calm, but the other guy was really angry. He was like, I fucking hate you because you tell me the earth is flat and you're fucking shitting on science. And he took it personally, like, you don't believe in science, you motherfucker, whatever he had to say about him.
But
Let's see.
he actually
Yeah.
he actually made really good points that David Weiss couldn't argue.
Yeah, I remember one point that was decent because he took the flat earth and he was like, if you stand in, let's say, Portugal and Greece, so you're pretty close. And if you look out in the sky, you see the same thing on a round ball because you're basically on the same place. But on a flat earth, you wouldn't see the same thing. He explained that, and they hadn't really answered for that. So the constellations in the sky would look different if you just move a bit on a flat earth, supposedly.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, because the way that they see the sky, it would be a different perspective and a different part of the sky you'd be looking at on a flat Earth. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting debate. I don't, I'm kind of like Richard Gage in regards to how I handle that topic. I'm just like, could we be lied to about, if the earth is flat round? Absolutely. I mean, people who came before us who were trying to convince us the earth was round, how did you treat them? Like, they murdered them, they killed them, so it's one of those things where, like, obviously historically people have thought either or, and there's always a reason to believe that we're being lied to for some greater reason, and to control us, or to think that we're not as important. And I get that aspect of flat earthers, like, where they have this, like, I like the bigger picture, like this universal worldview of, like, okay, because the reason, I mean, the question that always comes up is, but why would they lie to you about that? And I can see how they can come to conclusion that maybe they want us to feel insignificant. Maybe they want us to believe that there's nothing special about Mother Nature. There's nothing special about human beings. There's nothing special. There's nothing greater. There's nothing bigger. There's nothing beyond our understanding. Everything's just been explained by science, and it's very surface level. And flat Earth, that theory would change that. It would make us feel like we're the center of the universe, or something unique and special about us. And so I get that, and I can see the benefit in convincing people of that, because I mean, you see with science, a lot of, like, materialistic scientific thinking type of people look at the world as, like, oh, everything's just happy chance, and it's it's not, there's nothing special about things, there's nothing that's unexplained, there's nothing unique about human beings. It's just evolution and blah 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 and blah blah blah, which could be true, but also the opposite could be true, where we could be very unique, and there could be some type of creator or something, some intelligence out there. It's something unique about Mother Nature that we don't understand, some some way of communicating or seeing things that we're limited from seeing because of our limited five senses. Maybe I mean, think about it. If we were creatures that weren't born with ears, how would you convince somebody that music exists or sound exists? Or if we didn't have noses, how would you understand, smells and scents? You'd be like, how come I can't see? If there's something there, how come I don't see it? Well, it's like, oh, you have to smell it. It's a scent. It's like, well, what the fuck's that? Wouldn't I be able to see it? Like, it seems, you know, it's same thing with radio signals, right? Like my car's picking up a radio signal, but I don't see it, I don't hear it. There's nothing there. It's this magic that's in the air. And if I didn't have this radio, it'd never pick it up, and I would assume it doesn't exist. So who knows what else is out there, even in our everyday life, just around us, that we're not seeing.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good argument, I think. You're not that small and insignificant. You're not a speck in a universe floating around on a spinning ball, as they used to say. So I get that, but I have a hard time believing everything he has to say, or not believing. He believes what he says, but I don't know all the stuff. And I got it explained because I asked at work about when the NASA astronauts are like holding a ball and they drop it and it falls. So my coworker explained it to me at where there is no gravity or almost zero. So if you push something, just lightly push it, it will just travel in that direction and don't stop. So if you're holding something and you drop it and you push it, it's going down until it hits something. So that's maybe explains that, but I don't know. You see the videos where they have some chains in their clothes and stuff when they're floating around. Maybe they have it because it's easier to move around so you don't hit the wall or something. I don't know. It's easy stuff like that. They could come out and explain why they're doing it and what's happened, but instead they're like ignoring it and letting people speculate.
Yeah,
So
in regards to the moon landing, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think there's anybody who takes a deep dive into that topic, I think you'll come to the conclusion that without it's similar to September 11th, you might not know exactly what happened, but you definitely know the mainstream narrative is not 100% true, and they're lying to you about something, because obviously some videos have been faked, and the way the astronauts acted afterwards and all that stuff. I mean, there's been some great documentaries on it. American Moon by a past guest, Italian filmmaker Massimo, who also did 9/11 on New Pearl Harbor, and also did Cancer Cures, I think, Forbidden Cure or something like that. That was a really good one that I watched back in the day, before I had him on my show. And his American Moon documentary is good. And Bart's,
is it the same length as the 9/11 one? That's like 6 hours, I think, or something.
what's funny? So the 9/11 one is like 6 or 7 hours, and it actually is so well put together that you can actually sit through it. Where I can barely sit through a documentary that's like 90 minutes, and that one I can, but maybe it's because like that topic, similar to you, was like one of those topics that I took a deep dive into. And so when I watched that documentary, I'm like, oh my God, like this is awesome. He's not leaving anything out. He's debunking every, argument that believes the mainstream narrative. So but yeah, that was a super long documentary. And hopefully you could still find it on YouTube somewhere if you look up 9/11 on New Pearl Harbor.
I doubt it, but maybe. I have a a funny question here. In August 2018, a Turkish newspaper revealed that the US had developed a bomb that had the power to do what? A. Cleanly vaporize 1 square mile of urban buildings. B. Erase the short-term memory of everyone in the blast zone. C. Instantly crystallize all organic matter. D. Turn people gay.
Turn people gay.
Yeah. Have you heard about this?
I have, yeah, the gay bomb.
It's such a ridiculous thing to do.
I believe they dropped it in San Francisco like over and over again.
You might be right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, but that is real. You know, it's funny. Some of these operations and some of these experiments they messed around with like seem so crazy that you like it doesn't seem real. You're like, there's no way that could be real. And then you look it up, you're like, holy shit, it's real. I remember one time I went down like a rabbit hole where I'm like, I'm looking up every crazy operation, CIA operation, military operation I could find. And they were like there's nothing that they haven't like done research on or thought about. I mean, I remember running into, I forget what the name of the plan is. It's like Operation something, where they literally had a plan. If Canada ever decided to attack the US, they had a full strategy already on how to take out the country, like where to bomb first, who to kill. Like it was insane. I'm like, why would you even be concerned about Canada? You know, but it's like it made me think like just about every single possibility like has been thought of. There's not one way of this empire being attacked, or you know, so it's like they've exercised every single way that this country could be attacked, and they're like prepared for it, and they have some operation for it. So it's you know, it's wild. I mean, obviously MK Ultra is a real popular one, but there's so many other things outside of MK Ultra. Like there's that French. I remember watching a documentary. I wish I remember the name. There's that French town where the CIA poisoned. Um, well, they gave everybody like LSD through the like a local bakery that everybody went to, and everybody starts hallucinating, and like a couple people committed suicide, and it was all from like the CIA experiment where they were like basically putting like psychedelics in the bread, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, running this experiment in a foreign country in some little village? Like, so who like my point is like, who knows what else they've done? You know, all the things we've uncovered is just like probably just scratching the surface of you know what's really going on. You know, in regards to technology, I remember seeing an interview where somebody, who was it? It was like some, was it Ray Mc? No, it wasn't Ray McGovern. It was somebody who worked for the CIA who talked about how like in the 80s they found like some spy technology on like a US embassy building, and then they couldn't figure out, they had to like they took it apart, try to figure out how it powered itself, and it powered itself by the movement of the building. So like the slight movement of the building was enough to power this thing, and this was like in the 80s. So they're like, who knows what type of spy equipment and technology they have now? Like this was the 80s, and they're like that little bit of movement in the building was enough to power it. And it was like all these like crazy. So, you know, by the time we know, you know, that facial recognition,
They probably have the small animals. They have the DARPA videos where they put some chips in some small fly or something and just give it electricity. Like turn right, then they shock it and it turns, and you drive that fly around.
well, there's also that study because there's electric, you know, waves and signals that from our bodies and our brains, that experiment where they put like this head unit on a person who didn't have a hand, and he could think about moving his hand, and his robot hand would move, and the hand wasn't attached to him, it was detached from him, but he was sending the signals, so it would read your brain signals when you were thinking about moving it, and it would move. So it's like, well, you know, we have, I mean, this is stuff that's like public. I mean, who, Neuralink and all these other things, like we know what's public. Like who knows how close they are to some Neuralink technology in private. You know, by the time the public knows about it, it's like they're so past that, they're so advanced that, like, you know, they think like, oh my God, look what an iPhone does, or an Android does, or a Pixel does. It's like, think about what the military has. If that's what like the common person can just purchase at a fucking store, and you have all that technology and all that power in your pocket, like imagine what the military has, who spends billions and billions of dollars in investing and being, you know, having the most advanced technology. So it's like, yeah, I mean, who knows, you know? And that's why the UFO thing is interesting too, because it's like I'm so confused with why the military is openly talking about it and discussing it now. So is that your cue? Family got home?
Yep, they're back inside.
It's yeah, it's all right. It's I'm sure it's late there. It's you know almost 12:45 here p.m. So I'm sure.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes before 8 o'clock.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, we'll make this a swapcast. I'll make sure people listen to my show, go out and listen to your show. Can you let people know if you've had any past episodes that you're really proud of, you want to tell people to check out, or if you have any upcoming guests that you're really proud of that you want to tell them to check out, do that. Also let them know the video platforms and audio platforms, websites, social media accounts, anything and everything, so people can listen to your show. Ronnie was a friend who I'm sure I probably wasn't the only one telling you to start a podcast, because he was well researched, well spoken, and had a great sense of humor. So, perfect mixture of ingredients for a podcast host. I think he's changing a diaper right now. I can't tell.
I'm trying to open a jacket because he's been out playing. But yeah, thank you. And yeah, I had you on once before, and I had Richard Gage also, Charlie Robinson, Steve Poikinen from Slow News Day, Dr. Jessica Rose. I mean, I have a lot of people. They're better and worse episodes, and I think you guys will like it if you jump over to Enlighten Me with Ronnie. You should find it everywhere, even on YouTube still. Some episodes are banned. I have one strike left. So I'm probably gone when I upload this one because Ricky's name is tagged in the algos that gives you
Yeah,
the ban.
there's been a few shows I've been interviewed on where unfortunately I've gotten some strikes or something. So I think you're right. I think that for some reason, well, I shouldn't say for some reason, for many reasons, YouTube doesn't want any of my content on there. But look at that cutie pie.
Yeah. So do the same, promote your stuff, and I'll go and handle the situation after that.
The rippleeffectpodcast.com is where you can find all my links, all the links to my social media platforms, all my channels, all the video platforms I'm on. Obviously, the audio is available everywhere and anywhere you get podcasts, and the video is available in many places, minus YouTube, but all the alternatives like Rockfin, Rumble, BitChute, Band.video. I need to reconnect with Iconic, but I believe next month it'll be available on Iconic also. So it's a lot of different places. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but if you go to rippleeffectpodcast.com, you can find all those links and more. And what's the best URL for you, Ronnie? Is because I know you have a link tree, right?
Yeah, I have a link tree. I think it's a link tree / Enlighten Me with Ronnie, I guess. You
Okay.
should find everything.
I'll get
And yeah, I can say about your podcast, it's the conspiracy version of Joe Rogan, I guess, because sometimes you're listening to some keto discussion and the next day the JFK assassination, and then you go back to some other topics, so you never really know what you get. You just push play, and sometimes you feel bad because you eat shit, and sometimes you get something else. So I like it.
Yeah, well, life's been a little crazy for me, so this was nice to do one of these podcasts because I've been I feel like I've been a little scatterbrained and a little like all over the place. I haven't had as much time for preparation and to settle down and be like focused on my podcast. It's like for a month or so now, like every podcast I do, it's always like I get home, turn everything on, no, drink something, go to the bathroom. I'm in front of a computer trying to sound like I'm calm and collective while I'm looking at the time because I have to go pick up the kids or I have soccer practice, right after the show or whatever. And I just haven't had time to like be relaxed in a casual conversation like I would like to. So today was perfect because we had what I call a Portuguese holiday. Well, all of us construction workers in Massachusetts, we call it a Portuguese holiday when it rains because we work outside. So when it rains, typically you go home, and I'm pretty caught up with office work. So I'm like, you know what? Bring the kids to school, go to the gym, see if Ronnie wants to do a podcast, and hopefully we can squeeze it out and I don't feel rushed or whatnot. So thank you so much, Ronnie, for chatting with me and staying up late.
Hey, thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. And I'll release this on my feed. You release on your feed. Hopefully, we get some new listeners, and we'll keep in touch and hopefully talk again in the near future.
Yeah, would love to. Have a great day.
Hey, you too. Thanks, Ronnie. Take care.